Mind who you borrow money from, because some don't borrow money, they exchange life and destiny. This story will expose how Madam Clara took people's lives with her evil red purse and fake kindness. Bukky had just finished eating amala when she saw Onyeka's post. It was a Facebook post that read, "I borrowed only 20,000 naira from Madam Clara. Just 20,000, and I lost everything." But about 1 hour later, Onyeka was found dead in her apartment at Oloke Junction in Ekiti State. She had foam in her mouth with a bottle of sniper by her leg, and her eyes wide open. She posted that message in the morning, and by evening, she was gone. Bukky dropped her phone. Her heart froze because 2 weeks ago, she borrowed money from the same Madam Clara. Bukky sat in her room, her body shaking. Her I Pass My Neighbor generator was still on, but she couldn't hear anything. She opened Onyeka's Facebook profile again. She saw that the post was real. There was only one sentence. There was no explanation, no name tagging. Just that red warning. And the comments made it worse. What happened now? Which Clara? Is this a riddle or are you okay? Update us. Oh, then the last comment. She's dead now. She drank poison. May God help us. The post barely had likes. Bukky pressed her chest. Jesus, she's really gone? She remembered Onyeka very well. She lived in the Face Me, I Face You compound beside Oloke Junction, which was just 5 houses away from her house. Onyeka was a slim, tall girl, always friendly, always wearing T-shirts with Ankara skirts. Just last month, she saw her gossiping with her neighbor about their landlord, and she looked happy. Now Onyeka was dead. Bukky stood up, paced her room, and then sat again. Her mind started racing. 2 weeks ago, when her younger brother Emmanuel fell ill at Ekiti State University, she had borrowed 10,000 naira from Madam Clara too. Let's go back to how it began. Bukky was a 27-wa old lady who sold skincare products in a small pink-painted kiosk beside the market in Fajuyi area. She was the first child and only daughter in her family, and she wasn't rich, but she had enough to eat and send money home to her parents in Ikogosi. That week, her brother called with a weak voice. "Sister Bukky, I'm down. Malaria is finishing me. I need to run some tests, but the lab is charging naira and I don't have money on me." She had only 3,500 naira in her account, which wouldn't be enough for his lab test and treatment. She begged 3 of her friends. 2 ignored her, and 1 said, "Let's see how Monday goes." She sat on her bed, confused, not knowing whom to ask again, when she heard a gently knock on her door. When she opened it, it was Madam Clara. Madam Clara lived in flat 1A, upstairs, corner room of the compound. Everyone in the area respected her because she was well-spoken, wore clean wrapper, had a soft voice. She was always wearing sunglasses and one red purse that never left her side. Some people thought she worked in a bank, while others said her husband lived abroad and was always sending her money. Nobody knew the truth, but Clara always had money. "Bukky," Madam Clara called, "I heard you're not okay. Do you need something small to hold body?" Bukky wiped her face clean. She hadn't told anyone in the compound about her brother's health, but she nodded and said, "I need 10,000 naira for my brother's malaria treatment." Clara smiled gently and said, "Come upstairs. I'll give you something." Inside her room, it smelled like fresh powder and calm music. There was no TV, no photo frame, just one big mirror, a wooden table, and red carpet. Clara sat down, opened her red purse, and brought out 1,000 naira notes like magic. She counted 10,000 naira and handed it to Bukky. "No pressure. You can pay me whenever. Even if you don't pay, I won't die." Bukky looked at Madam Clara. "Don't worry, Ma. I will pay as soon as possible." She thanked her, ran back to her room, and sent the money to her brother. But a week after that day, things started going down. First, her best customer from Ilawe cancelled her order. Then, her cream ingredients got spoiled. Her phone fell and cracked. Twice, her skin broke out in rashes she'd never seen before, and this made clients lose interest in purchasing from her. After 3 days, she began to have strange dreams. She would see Clara sitting on her bed, brushing her long black hair while blood dripped from the comb. In another dream, she saw Clara smiling in church pews while everyone else was on fire. She didn't connect it at first, until Onyeka died. Bukky's phone buzzed again. It was Peace Onyeka's friend and her closest friend. "Have you seen Onyeka's post?" the message read. Bukky replied, "Yes. Is it true she's gone?" Peace sent voice note, but her voice was shaking. "Bukky, she drank poison last night. We found her with her diary. She wrote something about Madam Clara's money, said it was never free, that she was drowning and couldn't save herself." Bukky started sweating because she had not even paid Madam Clara back. Later that evening, Bukky sat by her room window staring into the dark. The rain was falling, and almost immediately, she saw Madam Clara walk past the corridor with an umbrella, elegantly but silent, the red purse under her armpit. But as Clara walked by, she paused and turned. She looked straight at Bukky with a stern face for a moment and smiled. Bukky quickly closed her curtain. Not long after, her phone rang. It was unknown number. She picked, but there no voice, just a low whisper saying the word, "You're next." Bukky didn't sleep that night. She sat on the cold floor of her room, back against the wall, Bible on her lap. Her phone was on silent. Her heart refused to slow down. "You're next." That was the last thing she heard from the strange call. The voice was soft, but not normal. It felt like something was breathing directly into her ear, and it was not human. She had blocked the number, but the fear remained. By 6:00 a.m., she was already at her church in Agbo Olaya Street. It was a small Pentecostal building tucked between a welding shop and a buka. She met Pastor Daramola, the short but fiery man who always prayed with sweat on his face. She told him everything about Madam Clara, the loan and Onyeka's death, the strange dreams, phone call, and the Facebook post. He was quiet for about 2 minutes, then looked at her and said, "You don't owe her money anymore. She has already taken something else." Bukky's voice cracked. "What did she take?" He flipped through his Bible quickly and pointed to Isaiah 42 verse 8. "My glory will I not give to another." Then he said it clearly. "She has collected your glory." Bukky's hand started shaking. "Sir, what should I do?" The pastor looked her in the eye. "You must break the chain. What you entered was not just a loan. It was a spiritual transaction, and it's not the first time she's done it." He poured oil into a small bottle and handed it to her. "Start a 7-day prayer and fasting tonight. Midnight prayer. No skipping. No sleeping." "Will it work?" Bukky whispered. "Yes. But first, you have to find out her source, go to her root, find out where she's from. That's the only way to channel your prayer and liberate yourself." That night, Bukky tried to pray, but she couldn't. Around 1:00 a.m., she started hearing things in her room. The door shook once. Then the light bulb blinked 3 times and went off. Her rechargeable fan, which was off, began spinning slowly. There was no light or battery. She grabbed the anointing oil she got from her church and screamed Psalm 35 and poured the oil on her pillow, her door, and her chest. The movement stopped, but she couldn't sleep again till 4 a.m. The next day, she went to greet Mama Iya Salewa, the nosy old woman in room 3B. The woman loved just like air. In the midst of their conversation, she asked, "Ma, please, do you know where Madam Clara is from?" The woman looked at her, then lowered her voice. "You know Sabi? That woman na Itapaji native." Bukky blinked. "Itapaji in Oye local government area?" "Yes. My husband na Ipao man. He even know her papa when he day alive. Them say she get wahala before she commode to that side." And that was all Bukky needed to hear. That evening, she called one of her friends who once served in Itaji during NYSC. The young lady gave her directions but warned her, "Don't go there and be talking anyhow. That place stay heavy. That's where the talking spring is, and them get shrine." Few hours later, Bukky packed her small bag. She didn't inform anyone, not even Peace. She just left quietly. The next morning, she arrived at Itapaji, Ekiti. The town looked peaceful, but it was too quiet. It has thick red soil, thick trees and houses made with both zinc and mud. She could hear the river rushing nearby, like it was speaking softly to itself. She asked around for Clara. At first, people said there was no Clara in the village, but one old woman answered her with fear in her eyes. "Ah, Clara, you mean Ogechi. Her people live that way." She pointed to a narrow path. "But that family no day like visitor." Bukky thanked her and followed the path. The family house was locked and old. Dust everywhere. A small shrine nearby had 7 stones on it, each tied with red cloth. An elderly man with white hair was sweeping. "Excuse me, sir," Bukky said. "Please, do you know Ogechi?" He paused, scanned Bukky. Then, with resentment, he said, "That Igbo woman that got married into our family? We don't talk about her in this community. She is a witch and a wicked woman." "You're not from here, and why are you asking after her?" he asked Bukky. "I need to know where her power comes from," Bukky replied. He looked at her for a long time. Then he said, "She gave her child to the river. That was the price." Bukky's eyes widened in shock. But the man continued, Her only daughter, Ada, started seeing visions. She spoke things that came to pass. Then, one day, she was gone. Her slippers were found by the spring, but her body was never seen. Bukky sat on the ground listening. The man continued. They say Ogechi went to a river priestess for power and health to be able to surpass her dead husband, brothers, who wanted to make her life miserable because she was poor and helpless. The river goddess told her that her only child must enter the water for her to rise. After the sacrifice, she left the village, but she returned years later, dressed in rich clothes, a nice car, and lots of money. And that red purse that rendered the lives of villagers useless. She was banished from the community, never to be spoken of again, he finished. Bukky whispered. So the purse is what? Her altar. Her daughter's spirit stays inside. When she gives money, she takes a portion of your life. And if you can't pay her back, the purse feeds on you forever. In fear and realization, Bukky stood up and ran all the way back to the bus park. On the way to Ekiti, her phone rang again. It was an unknown number. She was scared, but she picked. Clara's voice sounded for raw and horrid. You entered my roots, but you won't leave with your own. Instantly, Bukky's eyes spurned. She couldn't breathe properly. Clara's voice from the call still echoed in her head. You entered my roots, but you won't leave with your own. She almost dropped the phone inside the bus, going back to Ekiti. Other passengers were laughing, shouting about Tinubu and petrol prices, but Bukky just stared at the red dust on the road. She kept clutching her anointing oil in her right hand like it was oxygen. By the time she reached her compound at Okeila area, it was already dark. She didn't greet anybody. She went straight to her room, locked the door, and poured oil along the doorway and window. She called Pastor Daramola and told him everything she had learned in Itapaji. The line was silent for a few seconds. Then he said, It's worse than I thought. That purse is not just a charm. It's an altar, and you have already placed your hands inside it. Bukky's hands shook. Sir, can I still escape? Yes, he said. But it will fight you first. The moment you discovered her secret, you became a threat. She will try to scare you. You must not fear. Fear is the open door she needs. That night, Bukky didn't sleep. She sat with her back to the wall, Bible open, flashlight in her hand. She began praying fervently. But at exactly 1:37 a.m., she heard it. Footsteps. It was slow, heavy. Coming down the corridor, her heart started beating fast. Then a knock on her door. It was not hard nor soft, just steady. Knock, knock, knock. She didn't answer. She didn't move. Then came her name. Bukky. It was Clara's voice. Bukky squeezed her eyes shut. She began to whisper Psalm 35. The voice came again, this time sharper. Bukky, you can't pour oil forever. She wanted to scream, but instead she shouted, The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? There was silence. The footsteps moved away, and her body was still trembling when she noticed something. Her mirror, which she had hung on the wall for 3 years, now had a crack across it, and she hadn't touched it. The next morning, her friend Peace came running to her room. Bukky, You need to see the landlord's door. Bukky followed her, looking confused. But in front of the landlord's door, written in palm oil, were the words. The chain must not be broken. Bukky's stomach tightened. She knew it was for her, and she was the chain breaker. On the 7th day of the fasting and prayer, she was back in church. Pastor Daramola told her they had to do a deliverance session that night. You must be free before she replaces you with another person, he said. They prayed from 10 p.m. till midnight. At exactly 12. 10 am, Bukky felt something pressing down on her chest. She fell to the floor, coughing hard. In that moment, she saw a vision. Clara, dressed in a red wrapper, sitting under a big tree in Itapaji. Around her were faces. Faces Bukky recognized. Onyeka, Pastor Ken, their neighbor, who had died mysteriously. Seyi, the barber who lived next to Peace. All looking pale, all sitting in silence. They had borrowed money from Madam Clara and died shamefully. Clara was combing her hair with one hand, holding the red purse with the other. She looked straight at Bukky in the vision and said, "The longer you owe me, the stronger I become."